It was interesting, we were talking about democracy beforehand, and I did sort of make a joke about local democracy and defending it and what the local media, its part is, and we do take that actually very seriously, that we are the defenders of local democracy. And you're probably aware of all the debates that are going on at the moment with the Lord Justice Leveson inquiry. Please nod that you know what the Lord Justice Leveson inquiry is. Thank you very much. And I'll come on to that in a bit, about why that's very important. It's very important even at this local level, and how that actually has to do with local democracy and our arguments that we're having with L.J. Leveson, as we refer to him, LJ, or Call Me Brian, which I'll explain in a short time. This is today's paper, by the way, and I think I've probably got enough for everyone to take a free copy home. If you want to pay the 45p, somehow I don't think so, but a free copy home, you see, yes, a mere 45p, how do we do it? You probably think that's shockingly expensive, and yet in reality that is incredibly cheap for what it takes to actually produce a daily newspaper every day, even at a local level. And there's a reason why they're basically cheap, and that's to do with the history of newspapers in this country and the price wars that have taken place, which have undermined our industry quite a lot, actually, as if we couldn't undermine it ourselves. But we've undermined it a lot because of making people think that it's basically cheap. Then along have come, of course, free newspapers as well, and that's been made people think even more that newspapers are basically cheap and perhaps even worthless. And then what is very, very unique in this country is BBC, which is not cheap. It costs us about $3 billion a year to run, all of us. But what they do, of course, is they provide free at source. I don't know if any of you pay a license. I do hope you do if you've got TV, by the way. And they provide it free of source on the internet, of course, all this kind of news, which means it's very, very difficult in this country for us to actually have any paywalls on our internet sites for you to actually access to get local news, national news, whatever, because you can get it free from the BBC. And so all that has sort of undermined the ability of local newspapers particularly to actually charge a realistic price for their papers. So do you care? Well, you would if we all disappeared, because that would damage your local communities, of which you probably don't care about at the moment. And I will come on to that at a moment, because I understand my audience and I understand my readership as to who actually is interested in buying a local newspaper, and why it's not actually, it's not actually targeted at you, but more of that later. I'm particularly proud of today's edition, particularly proud. I'm very often reasonably proud, quite proud, and sometimes very disappointed with our editions, but today I'm particularly proud of this one. You can see the headline, Left to Die in Squalor. I'm not referring obviously to Saints held at home by Ipswich, not quite what we're proud of. We're hoping that they get into the Premier League, and because we'll sell a lot of newspapers on the back of it. But Left to Die in Squalor, and if you've not had the chance to see that story at all, that's it's shocking. It's absolutely shocking. It's a gentleman there. He was 49 years old. He was challenged mentally. He did work. He worked at Sainsbury's, and basically he also got epilepsy and a number of other things. And he was promised care. He was promised 22 hours worth of care a week by the local authority. The local authority then basically put that out to a care company, and he lived in one of their homes. And basically he was found dead in that home. And to cut a long story short, and please do get a chance to read all of this, they didn't provide him with the care at all. They provided him with only at least a third of the care, and he was left to die, basically, if you read about it. Appalling, appalling conditions. And an appalling story of complete failure by the system to protect someone who's incredibly vulnerable that's there. Now, I'm proud of that story because although it's actually a report from an inquest, which we have then built on, we have then gone out and found out lots of details, I'm proud of it because that inquest wasn't actually made public to people. Not even we were told that inquest existed. We found out about it afterwards. Now that's shocking. Inquests are supposed to be done in public. Well, it was done in public. Anyone could have walked in, but they forgot to tell us that this inquest was taking place. It took place over 5 days. But we found out about it, and then we basically went into research mode, insisted that we got the reports that were put before the coroner insisted that the coroner based, and we got the whole thing in that sort of way. Otherwise, if we hadn't been here to do it, then the death of this guy would have gone unreported. And also the questions that we are now continuing to ask, which is, how could those different authorities make that mistake? This poor chap was actually seen by his doctor 3 days before he died. The doctor went to where he lived and saw the squalor, and you read for yourself the kind of squalor he was living in, and just left him there, didn't do anything about it. And he died 3 days later in those conditions. And from what we can gather now, although the local council are saying, yes, we're carrying out an inquiry, and we know that they've got a bit of money back from these people. Well, they've got the money back from the care company. Oh, well, that's good, isn't it? They got the money back from the care company because we paid you to look after this guy and you didn't, so can we have the money back? Yes, okay, you can fight. Oh, that's okay, we'll all walk away now happy, will we? This guy's dead. The company themselves are shrugging their shoulders and saying, is it a problem? There you go. And even the doctor's surgery, which is shocking, are basically saying, no comment, no comment. Well, if you think we're going to leave it at that, we're certainly not. We're going to continue. Hello, welcome, do take a seat. We're going to not leave it at that. We intend to kick up the stink, we intend to continue on, and we're out there now fronting up a lot of people, so read tomorrow's edition as well. Now, I'm really proud that we're actually doing that, and that's our role. And as you can tell probably from the, I hate to say excitement in my voice, because that's not fair, because this is a dreadful story, but the enthusiasm I've got for what we do to do with this kind of a story, I truly believe that that's what the local press are there for. That's what will disappear if for some reason we don't exist anymore. So all these people that say, oh, local media, local press, it doesn't matter, we can get rid of it. Absolute madness if they really believe it. It won't happen, by the way. I'm sure you'll ask me questions why that won't happen. And also it gives you a flavour of the enthusiasm I've had for just over 30 years for being in the industry I've been in.